What does a man say to a legend when no one else is listening? On a still afternoon at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, that question stopped being hypothetical. Jaafar Jackson, the actor chosen to resurrect his uncle Michael Jackson on screen for the second time, was seen standing alone at the gravesite, head bowed, hands folded, saying nothing at all, at least nothing anyone else could hear. And in that silence, something shifted. This wasn't a red carpet. There were no flashing cameras waiting for him, no publicist guiding his every step, no rehearsed statement ready for the press. Just a young man, a headstone, and whatever conversation only the two of them will ever know the words to. Before we go further, if stories like this, quiet, human, and far removed from the noise of everyday celebrity coverage, are the kind of thing you want more of, take a second to subscribe to this channel. We're still a small community telling these stories the way they deserve to be told, and your support is what keeps that possible. Now, let's get back to Glendale. By most accounts, Jaafar arrived without fanfare. No entourage trailing behind him, no security detail forming a wall between him and the world. Just a slow walk through rows of familiar names until he reached the one that changed his life forever. Onlookers say he stood there for several minutes, motionless, the kind of stillness that doesn't come from posing, but from genuinely needing a moment. Word spread quickly once a handful of visitors recognized him. Phones came out, as they always do, and within hours, the image of Jaafar Jackson standing before Michael's resting place had made its way across every corner of the internet. The timing is what makes this moment impossible to ignore. Filming for Michael 2, the highly anticipated sequel following the record-breaking success of the first film, is set to begin in the coming weeks. Jaafar is once again stepping into the role that made him a household name overnight, a role that comes with a level of scrutiny few actors will ever understand. Every gesture will be compared, every line delivery will be measured against the real thing, and now every choice he makes on screen will be viewed through the lens of an audience that has already decided how much they loved him the first time, and how much higher the bar has been set for round 2. So, why the cemetery? Why now, days before cameras start rolling again? There are a few theories circulating, and honestly, all of them feel plausible. The first is the simplest: respect. Before taking on the responsibility of portraying Michael Jackson for a second time, Jaafar may have felt the need to physically stand where his uncle rests, as a way of asking, in his own quiet way, for permission to continue telling his story. The second theory leans emotional, that this was less about permission and more about grounding himself before stepping into a role that reportedly takes a serious toll, mentally and physically, on the people who play it. And the third theory, the one fans seem to gravitate toward most, is gratitude. A simple thank you, delivered somewhere Michael can actually receive it, for the opportunity, for the legacy, for the doors that have opened in Jaafar's own career because of the man buried beneath that headstone. Whatever the real reason, the reaction online has been immediate and intense. Clips of the visit have been shared across every platform, accumulating comments from longtime Michael Jackson fans, casual viewers, and industry watchers alike. Some are calling it one of the most genuine celebrity moments they've seen in years, proof that Jaafar isn't treating this role like just another job on a call sheet. Others see it as a sign of the immense pressure building underneath the surface, a young actor quietly bracing himself for a wave of attention he knows is coming. It's worth remembering what Jaafar has already been through to get here. Long before the first film premiered, he spent years preparing for the role in ways that went far beyond a typical audition process. Reports at the time described him living inside Michael's childhood bedroom at the Havenhurst estate for extended periods, studying old home videos, rehearsal footage, and personal recordings to understand not just the performer the world saw, but the person very few people ever got close to. That level of immersion doesn't end when the cameras stop rolling. It becomes part of how an actor carries a role long after wrap. And now, here we are again. The sequel raises the stakes even higher than before. The first film had the advantage of surprise. Nobody quite knew what to expect from Jaafar, and he shattered expectations. This time, there's no element of surprise left. There's only comparison. Will the performance go deeper? Will it uncover parts of Michael's story that haven't been told yet? Can Jaafar meet an audience that now expects greatness instead of hoping for it? Maybe that's exactly why he went to the cemetery. Not for cameras, not for content, not for a moment that was ever designed to be seen. Maybe he needed, just for a few minutes, to remember why any of this matters in the first place. Not the box office numbers, not the marketing campaign, not the trailers or premieres or interviews still to come. Just the man himself, the music, and the weight of carrying someone else's story with the care it deserves. There's a quiet kind of courage in that. In an industry that thrives on spectacle, where every move a celebrity makes seems engineered for attention, Jaafar's visit stands out precisely because it wasn't meant to be a moment at all. It became one anyway, purely because people recognized something real when they saw it. Think about the environment Jaafar is stepping back into. Before the first film even released, Expectations were already sky high simply because of the name attached to the project. Once the movie became the box office and cultural moment it did, those expectations didn't settle. They multiplied. A sequel doesn't just have to match that success, it has to justify its own existence, answer the question of why this story needed to be told again, and do it while carrying an even heavier emotional weight than before. That's not a small thing to walk into. It's the kind of pressure that can quietly follow an actor into every part of their life, including, apparently, an afternoon at a cemetery that was never supposed to make headlines. It's also worth considering what this moment says about the Jackson family's relationship with Michael's legacy more broadly. For years, every decision involving Michael's story, the estate, the music catalog, the documentaries, the films, has been scrutinized from every possible angle. Skeptics question motives. Supporters defend the family's right to shape how Michael is remembered. In the middle of all that noise, a young relative quietly visiting a grave with no agenda beyond the visit itself feels almost like a rebuttal, intentional or not, to the idea that everything involving Michael Jackson's legacy has to be calculated. Sometimes, it seems, it's simply personal. That personal element is easy to lose sight of when the conversation around a film this big turns into box office projections, marketing rollouts, and casting analysis. But for Jaafar, this was never just a franchise, it's family. The uncle whose records defined a generation is also the uncle he presumably grew up hearing stories about, watching old performances of, and now embodying on some of the biggest screens in the world. That duality, the global icon and the family member, is something very few actors preparing for any role will ever have to reconcile. Jaafar has to hold both at once, every single day he's on set. Fans online have pointed out that this isn't the first time Jaafar has approached this responsibility with unusual seriousness. Interviews from before the first film's release show a young actor who spoke less like someone chasing fame and more like someone who understood, perhaps painfully, the size of what he was being trusted with. He wasn't just playing a pop icon, he was stepping into the story of a family member, a story still surrounded by grief, controversy, love, and unanswered questions all at once. That kind of role doesn't just require talent. It requires a willingness to sit with discomfort, to hold contradictions, and to keep going anyway. Some fans have speculated that visiting the grave before filming could become something of a ritual for Jaafar, with each project tied to Michael's legacy, a private moment of alignment before stepping back into a very public role. Others believe this was simply about this particular sequel, given how much bigger its scope reportedly is compared to the first film. Either way, the symbolism hasn't been lost on anyone watching. A nephew, standing before an uncle whose life reshaped music history, preparing once again to bring pieces of that history back into the light. The online reaction, unsurprisingly, has split into familiar camps, the way it does with almost anything connected to Michael Jackson. There are those who see this as a beautiful, uncomplicated gesture, a young man honoring the person who made his career possible, nothing more complicated than that. Then there are those who read deeper into it, suggesting the visit hints at nerves, doubt, or the sheer psychological weight of stepping into a role this scrutinized for a second time. And there's a smaller, quieter group who simply see it as private grief, a family member missing someone they loved, regardless of any film or career attached to the moment at all. Perhaps the most interesting reactions have come from longtime fans of Michael Jackson himself, some of whom have followed Jaafar's casting and preparation since it was first announced years ago. Many of them point out that this isn't a young actor treating a legendary role lightly. From the earliest interviews to the intense physical and vocal preparation required for the first film, Jaafar has been described repeatedly as someone who approaches this responsibility with a kind of reverence rarely seen in Hollywood casting stories. A cemetery visit, in that context, doesn't feel out of character. It feels like a continuation of the same mindset that got him the role in the first place. There's also something to be said about timing in the broader sense. Sequels rarely get the benefit of low expectations. Studios know this. Actors know this. Audiences absolutely know this, which is likely part of why so much attention has been paid to something as small as a private cemetery visit. Because in the absence of trailers, official set photos, or confirmed plot details, fans are searching for any signal about what this next chapter might look and feel like. A quiet, respectful gesture, like this one, offers something trailers can't. A sense of intention behind the performance before a single scene has even been shot. We may never know exactly what was said in those quiet minutes at Forest Lawn. That conversation, if it can even be called one, belongs entirely to Jaafar and to Michael. But what we do know is this: somewhere in the performance still to come, in the movements, the pauses, the choices only an actor who has spent this much time with a role would know to make, there will be a trace of that afternoon. A moment nobody was supposed to see that ended up saying more than any press release ever could. Because in the end, this wasn't about preparing for a role, it was about honoring one. And sometimes, before the world starts watching again, the most important thing an actor can do is stand somewhere quiet, alone, and simply say thank you. If this story moved you the way it moved us, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that go beyond the headlines.